Morning everybody, welcome back to Harriet the Hellcat channel. I want to take a few minutes and tell you who I am and some things about Harriet that made me decide to buy it. My name is Tony, born and raised in North Florida. Been working on and building and racing Mopars since the early 70s. This is my first Gen 3 car other than my wife's 300C. This is my first experience messing with the Gen 3 stuff. I always loved them, always loved the Hellcats, and had the opportunity to buy this car, and I did. A couple of things that made me decide to buy it was the color, the red. I always loved it, the red interior, the weld wheels and tires. And as I researched this car, I seen a lot of add-on stuff that somebody had already done prior to this car being stolen. So that's a few things that made me decide to buy it. Now, you have to understand salvage titles and rebuilt and everything that goes along with that. Like I said in the first video, I really don't care about the salvage title, but this was a salvage title being able to be rebuilt. In other words, the person who bought it from the auction had to rebuild it, get it inspected in Florida before they were allowed to have the title and have it cleared. So when I seen it, like I said, first thing was the color and all, but I was looking at the motor and underneath the hood, and I seen several add-ons. Number one was the pulley. The top pulley was a 2.6, which is really radical. It had Innovations West 9% lower pulley, and it had a couple of stickers across here that I seen that a shop I know of. The air intake and all was on there at the time, and I seen that stuff, and of course I liked it. And the more I dug into it, the more stuff I found. So I communicated with the gentleman down in South Florida. In another video, I'll link him if you're ever interested. He does that for a living. He buys them, rebuilds them, and sells them at a good price. So that was a couple of the things that I seen. The interior was awesome, and when I first got it, it had a check engine code come on and an airbag code. The check engine code was very simple. It was a cat delete code, and we just deleted that, and that solved that problem right off the bat. The airbags, however, turned into probably a month and a half, 2 months long journey. When I first got, like I said, not knowing a lot about these Gen 3 cars, I made a post in our local Mopar group here, and Stacy Michelle, one of the ladies in there that's been messing with, owns them and works for a dealership, she pointed me in the direction of Brandon Avila down at Down South Power. So I got to talking with him, and we decided to take the car over to his shop and start trying to figure out what was wrong with it. First thing he had to do was pull all the interior out and check all the wiring and make sure all the wiring was okay, which it was. He said it was in good shape. So we thought it may be the airbag controller. So I sent that airbag controller out and had it rebuilt, got it back, plugged it back in, same problem, still the airbag light. I myself, during that time, had read the code, and it said that the driver's side seat belt was not plugged. So I went and purchased a new seat belt apparatus that plugs in. It does a couple of functions. Put that in there, still no help. So we were at Brandon's shop, so we just started looking and looking and looking, and finally we found out that the Uconnect was a 21-22 model instead of a 2016. So that sent up some red flags to both of us. And make a long story short, what the problem was is the seats were 21-22 also. So neither one would communicate with the BCM. So we were trying to figure that out, and we were looking at the wires, and first thing popped up, and we seen that the wires didn't match the plug. The color codes on the wires didn't match the plug. So we were going to try to rewire it, and then Brandon, unfortunately for him, fortunately for me, he had just crashed his 2016 Hellcat, and the body is totally demolished, sitting out in his parking lot. So he suggested we go out there and get the wiring harness off of one of his seats and put in. And sure enough, we went out there and grabbed one. He sent one of his guys out and grabbed the wiring harness off the passenger seat. So we plugged it all back in and rechecked it. Guess what? The passenger side seat was showing good. So we knew where we were at that point. So we went out there and grabbed the driver's seat harness, changed all those out, and cleared our codes completely. The dash was completely clear. So that was a journey. It was an expensive journey for me, but it was well worth it. I mean, I expected these kind of things when you have a stolen recovery car. You're going to have little issues that need taken care of. Back to the motor. As I was researching the motor, and Alejandro down in Miami told me, he says, the motor's been rebuilt. So that's when I got to doing the research. And I called the company that built the motor, and sure enough, the motor is all forged bottom end, has Carrillo forged pistons, rods, and cammed for the supercharger. As you can see, it was already powder coated, valve covers powder coated, and that was another plus that made me want to decide to buy it. Once I got it home, got it up on the rack, I found out that it had a 4-inch G-force aluminum one-piece drive shaft, and a couple of AAD suspension parts in the rear. I said, wow, somebody's already taking care of this. So the process I was going to go is, instead of working on the motor and making it more power and having rear end problems, I decided to kind of do everything at once. I ordered all the rear suspension parts, all AAD rear suspension, cradle lockout, drive shaft shop, level 5 axles, put Demon springs on it, everything all at one time. In the meantime, while I was waiting, I had communicated with a shop down south called the Hellcat shop in Fort Worth, and FAS superchargers. So while I was waiting on that, I drove down there, told Drew at the Hellcat shop what I wanted, and that I'd like to drive down there and get all that stuff done in a day. So we timed it out, and I went down there and was at the door when he opened the shop, and we got to talking, and I decided to go with the complete package. What that consists of is a ported bearing plate, ported snout, 108 millimeter Nick Williams throttle body, complete service on the supercharger, change the bearings, everything. It has race bearings in it now, and the oil was changed in the supercharger. It looked good. It had a little delamination of some of the coating on the rotors, but he said that's pretty normal with the heat created by the 2.6 upper pulley. So we decided to switch the 2.6 since it's going to have a lot of street miles on it. We went to the 2.7 upper, and now it has the 9% Innovators West lower pulley. All that stuff's pinned. So with the combination, he switched it over to E85 for me and retuned the engine. And that's kind of where I'm at this point. According to all the mods that we have made with the motor, with the cam, the supercharger upgrades, the throttle body, we're thinking it should be probably over 900 horsepower. You guys can make a guess if you want to down at the bottom, and we'll see when we finally get it on the dyno here very shortly. But overall, that's where it was when I got it, and those are the changes that I made. I'll show you in the video here coming up after this that, where I replaced all the stuff on the rear suspension. I was going to make some how-to videos, but since I'm out here working on my own and don't have a lift, it's kind of difficult to get in there and do the work. and you know, video it so you can understand what's going on. There's enough videos out there that you can look at. I'll go over all the high points and the stuff that made it a little bit easier for me. It's not easy for me at 68 to get out here and lay on my back and do this kind of stuff. I really didn't want to, but it kind of happened, and I got it finished. I worked on and off for probably a week on the rear suspension, doing all that stuff. That was a pretty big job to do. I recommend you having some help if you do it, if you have to do it. That would make it a lot easier. So I've been talking long enough. I think that's about all I'm gonna cover on this video. Like always, if you please subscribe and like the channel so I can build it and get a lot more information to you. We're gonna get out there to the track very soon, get it on a dyno, get all these things accomplished, and my goal, like I said in the first video, is to have a mid to low 9-second street car. That's what I'm shooting for. So I'll make another video real shortly. I've already got one made on the suspension and show you then. Have a good day.